by the water.
Y'all know what's going on. It's time for another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and welcome to the show, y'all, right? This story is about this young guy named Rico, right? Now, listen to me. We're going to start all the way back at the beginning. We're going to start at the beginning. Now, when Rico was 2 years old, his life wasn't so good at all. His mom and dad, his mama name was Stacy, his dad's name was Derek, right? They were hardcore addicts. Hardcore addicts. They lived in the projects. And when they was in the projects, you know, their neighbor would always come over to try to look in on Rico to make sure he was all right because she knew that Rico's parents were out there. So she would always try to make sure that he had something to eat, that his diaper was changed, stuff like that. But she had her own kids to raise, and she couldn't do it every day, all day, right? But she wanted Stacy and Derek to get some help. She knew them. She went to school with them. It wasn't a bad thing about the relationship between them. It was good. So she thought she was doing the right thing when she called the Department of Children's Services so that they can come over and put a little pressure on Stacy and Derek to maybe kick the habit and take care of their child. But when the Department of Children's Services gets over to the house, they see that Rico is in his baby bed, diaper ain't been changed, bugs running around all over the place, drug paraphernalia, drug residue, needles, all of these types of things are all over the house. And they were absolutely, positively saying, this ain't gonna stand. So that day, they didn't give them a warning or anything like that. That day, they took the steps to remove Rico from that home. He's 2 years old, y'all. Now, Stacy and Derek, they're panicking, they're tripping because they're saying, you can't take our child away from us. But they could for the betterment of the child. So they did. And they took him up out of there, right? Now, there was this other young couple that come from resources and means, right? They had means. They had just graduated college. You know what I'm saying? Both of them were aspiring and working. And the husband, you know, he was an entrepreneur trying to get his business off the ground and all this and that, right? And his wife, you know, she had graduated and was getting ready to start law school, right? She's getting ready to start law school. And they had their whole lives ahead of them, but they wanted a child. See, both of them had come from big families where they had a lot of children. So it wasn't uncommon for them to want to get started early. They were goal and career oriented, but they still wanted kids. But they had been trying and they were unable to get pregnant. So they signed up to be foster parents. And when they signed up to be foster parents, they didn't think that they would get a call, you know what I'm saying, as quick as they did, but they got a call from the Department of Children's Services, and the people at the Department of Children's Services told them that, look, we got this little boy. He's 2 years old. Can you take him in? Now, Emily was overjoyed. And when she went and told David didn't hesitate. They grabbed what they needed to grab and they hurry up and flew down there to the Department of Children's Services. And that's when they met Rico, 2-year-old baby. And when they first saw him, he was laying in the bed asleep. They had a little crib in the office. He was laying there asleep. And they stood over him, they stared at him, they looked at him, and they imagined what their lives would be like with him running around the house. So they told the lady that was over Rico's case that they would love to take him in. But she told him, look, now, be clear. This is not a situation where you will end up being able to adopt him. His parents, you know what I'm saying, they're struggling right now. But they're going to be better. We're working with them. We're trying to help them out. And once they get themselves together and we're sure that it's going to be a safe environment, we're going to make sure that we reunite this family. And Emily and David, they understood that. But they wanted so much to be able to pour the love that they had inside of them out for this child or any child that they were willing to do this. So they took Rico home that night after the paperwork was done. And they had fun. It was almost like the next morning when Rico woke up, he found himself in a strange environment, but they were so nurturing, so loving, that he adapted very, very fast. He adapted very, very fast. She would make sure that she was there to feed him when he would scream and cry, change him when he needed it, play with him when he wanted to. His life was perfect. Perfect for any 2-year-old. And David just loved it when he would come home from work and Rico would stumble through the living room to try to find him and jump up in his arms and stuff like that and just hug and squeeze his neck, you know. It was a perfect situation for Rico. It was ideal. So after the first year of all of this loving, their hearts, they just couldn't take it anymore. So they went down to the Department of Children's Services to check up on how his parents had been doing and what was the status on them getting better, because they wanted to keep Rico now. That's how it is. But the lady told them the same thing that she told them the first day applied. They're working, they're trying to kick their addiction, but Stacy and Derek were struggling. They were struggling. They were in the throes of an addiction and they were out doing things. They hadn't been caught up on any felonies or anything like that, but they were out there doing things that if they get caught, they're done. Like they would rob and, you know, they were out there robbing the local grocery stores. They were stealing steaks and hamburger meat and stuff like that, right? And the people that ran these stores knew them, so sometimes they would just tell them, look, take the meat, go home and eat. But they would take it and give it to the dope man so they could have something to smoke that night, trying to drown their misery, the pain that they were going through. They didn't want to face it. So one day, Derek had this novel idea that we need to do something to get more money faster. So he had talked Stacy into prostituting herself out. He knew a lot of guys that would always be talking about her. You know, a lot of the dope boys that he was getting that bag from, they would always make little comments about Stacy, how good she still looked and all this and that, and that, you know, they would pay extra, you know what I'm saying, give him a little extra if they were able to do, you know, what they wanted to do with her, toss her up. You understand what I'm saying? So he went back and he told Stacy all this and he convinced her to go along with the move. But see, it was this one dude that she would be with sometime. Now, keeping in mind, now, whenever she did go out with these guys, Derek wasn't too far away. He was close enough, because they would always be in the backseat of a car or something like that. He'd be close enough so he could hear if she screamed for help. But he would make sure he'd be far enough away that he didn't have to listen to his girl being tossed up in the backseat of the car. You understand what I'm saying? It's a heck of a thing to be a part of, y'all. So one day, this dude that she was with, you know, he likes it rough. And he started beating on her, blooded her up. And she screamed out, help me, Derek, help me, help me. And Derek, he's running down and he's trying to get to the area. He getting there, y'all. He running hard and fast as he can to try to get to her because he can hear the panic in her voice. And dude is turning him on, though. He likes that fear. He feeds off of it. You know what I'm saying? You got some people out there like that. So when he gets there, he grabs the door. Derek grabs the car door. He pulls the car door open and he sees Stacy beaten and bloody. And he reaches to grab her. And the dude turns around and he pushes Derek back. And when he pushes him back, he comes up out of his waist, man, and he fires. And one time he hits Derek straight in the chest, knocking him back into the wall in the back of the apartment complex. And he falls down on the ground face first. Blood is coming out of him. Dude throws Stacy out the car and he speeds away. She's laying there on top of Derek, asking him, baby, can you hear me? Can you hear me? And he's barely able to talk. He's out of it. She's screaming, somebody please call 911. Somebody help me. Please help me. And then the lights came on. Somebody up a couple of stories high in the apartment complex turned the lights on and said, what is all that yelling down there? And the woman said, Stacy said to the woman, please, will you call 911? My man has been shot. So she rushed away from the window. She got on the phone and she called 911 and the police, telling them, look, we got somebody in the back of my apartment complex in the alley that has been shot. So the ambulance and 911, the police flew down there, and once they got down there, they saw the scene. Derek was face down. He was bleeding. So the ambulance, the EMTs, they got him in the back of the ambulance. They're working on him, and he's still alive. He still got a pulse. And Stacy's in the back of the ambulance with him. They're rushing to the hospital. They get him to the hospital. They get him in the operating room. They're working on him. They're trying to save his life. And they're working on him. They got him. They're hitting him. You know how they do. They got working on his chest and they got to cut him open. Now they got to put him under. You know, all these kinds of things so they can get in there and get that bullet out of him and save his life. And if you want to know if they saved his life, you're going to have to tune in to the next episode. And it's coming right behind this one. You ain't going to have to wait till tomorrow. It's coming right behind this one, right? But look here. Tune in to it, right? So you can know how this story continues to unravel. This has been another episode of Doing Time with Joe. I'm your host, Joe Baker, and I say peace, y'all.
I've been trying to breathe underwater.